Tonight on the show, we talk about Auburn's loss at Mississippi State. We break down 3 key plays that resulted in the Tigers falling in Starkville. We also look ahead to the bye week. How does Auburn prepare for a game against South Carolina in 2 weeks? All that tonight on Auburn Intel. Welcome into the show. This is Auburn Intel. I am Justin Hokanson. With me, my teammates, Jack Crow and Rob Pate. Guys, how are we?
Good, Justin. How are you?
Excellent.
What do you think of the new studio?
Hey, this is neat.
Outstanding.
Love it.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Lots of TVs.
Absolutely.
Exciting future for Auburn Intel.
Good, and working with great people here who know what they're
absolutely.
doing.
Yeah, amazing people. We're really excited about what this show is going to be about. Let's get right into it tonight. Auburn goes to Starkville, loses to Mississippi State 38-23. The Tigers were number 2 in the country. Not anymore. Mississippi State now the number 1 team in the country as Auburn falls 38-23. Rough game. Auburn number 6 in the polls now, 5-1 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. And guys, when you talk about this game, when you think about walking out of there 15-point losers in Starkville, what were your initial thoughts Saturday evening when you just sunk in a little bit? Rob, what did you think about what you saw, and obviously Auburn coming away with their first loss of the season?
Well, initially I was proud of the effort. You know, obviously you hate the result, but you know, those guys walked into a frenzied environment and immediately dug themselves a hole that really no team in America should have climbed out of by the first TV timeout. And so for those guys to really claw and fight their way back, to be in position to have gone up if they could have converted in the red zone, I was just happy with the effort. You know, I didn't feel like I could point to any one position group or any player and feel like that they didn't give their best effort and feel like that they weren't prepared. I just think that an outstanding football team got the better of them in a awful, tough environment to play in.
I left there thinking as a coach, okay, we found out some things we didn't know. We had some things we got to just leave behind us. Number one, you know, we got to have a short memory about some things we couldn't control. But there are some things that we walk out of there we could have controlled. And we've got to go back now and we got to make some adjustments. We got to correct the course of what we're doing with our blitzes and several other things.
How surprised were you by the start of that football game? 2 turnovers, 2 offensive plays, a rough start. I mean, Gus Malzahn said he's never been in a game like that. That was pretty shocking to see.
I was surprised because you know that was ingrained in these guys going over there was you've got to start fast and you can't stumble out of the blocks. And if we saw it right from the get-go. And, you know, really more of an unfortunate set of circumstances more than it was guys that were ill-prepared. I mean, that first tip pass, we could go do that 99 times and that wouldn't happen. The guy that intercepted it was covering grass. He was defending no one. So just an unfortunate play. The next play where Duke Williams fumbles the ball, just an outstanding play by the Mississippi State defensive back. So coaches can take that first 5 minutes and show it to teams in the future as the perfect mechanism. Don't play like these guys when you go into a hostile environment. You're going to get yourself beat.
How do you regroup the team as a coach when that happens? How do you get everybody back on the same page?
Leadership. I mean, if you have leadership, the leaders take that over. I mean, all the coach has to do is just set the stage for the leaders to go through the locker room. The ones that maybe carried a little bit too much responsibility out of there, maybe the young ones, maybe the fumble on the kickoff. There's some guys that carried some baggage out of there that they need to, it need to be dealt with. And the leaders have to go and mend the fences around the emotions around and bring the team together and make sure everybody walks out of there with equal ownership of what happened, equal ownership, and make sure that the positive side of this is we just treat it like a lesson learned.
And I think they'll be able to do that, Justin, because this is a team full of champions. They're a team full of guys that have been there, that have played in big games. They did against Mississippi State. They went and lost in a tough environment early in the season. They know how to rebound from that. They have a staff that's going to be able to self-evaluate and look at some of the things that they've done and improve upon it. And I think that we'll see this team learn from what happened in Starkville.
Did you ever feel like Auburn was going to lose the game? You're so used to seeing against Georgia and against Alabama, some of those close games, they found a way to win. Did you think when you were watching the game, they're going to win? Or were you legitimately concerned? Did you think they were going to pull it out?
I thought when we got down there, quite honestly, and didn't score, I mean, our personality is to get our red zone points. And that got my attention. We were getting down there and not coming away with points because we got those early points. I mean, that thing would have looked a lot different at halftime.
Well, we watched the game together, and so I could tell that he thought that we were all the time in it. Up until the point where Ricardo Lewis fumbled the ball in the kickoff, I thought that we could come back. But I thought when they went in and took that short field for another touchdown and went up by that much, I didn't think we had a chance. And they still fought all the way to that last drive.
We thought that was did you think the Ricardo fumble was the
I thought
dagger?
that was it.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
They scored in 2 plays right after that, and the wind was taken out of that team.
I didn't think we had a chance, and they still took it all the way down and made that fan base wonder if they were going to make this a game all the way down to the final horn.
Yeah, tough game as Auburn falls 38-23 in Mississippi State. As we said, Auburn drops to 6th in the polls, still in contention for any championships they want to win, both national and on the SEC level. When we get back, we're going to break down 3 plays in the Auburn-Mississippi State game that we think made a huge difference in the ball game, momentum-type changing plays. We're going to break down what we saw. We're going to show them to you live on Auburn Intel. Welcome back into the show. Guys, we're going to break down 3 important plays in the Auburn-Mississippi State game, Auburn's loss at Mississippi State, that I think were momentum-turning plays, certainly. Plays that you go back and if they went the other direction, they could have had a big impact on the game. The first play I think that comes up to me is second quarter, about 4 minutes left in the game. Mississippi State had driven down. Auburn had cut it to 21-13. Mississippi State had driven down to about the 10 or 15-yard line. It was 3rd and 10 for Mississippi State.
This is where we usually tell people you're not going to score.
Exactly.
Right here.
And it's right before halftime. We always talk about going in and coming out are such big, important parts of the
Last
game.
2 minutes, first 5 minutes.
Auburn goes down and has a chance on a 3rd down to make a stop and hold them to a field goal before half. And Mississippi State ends up scoring a touchdown. Dak Prescott untouched. Let's talk about this play as we look at what are you guys seeing?
Well, here's what I see. I see an empty backfield, which on 3rd and 10, I mean, it means we're going to throw the ball, we're going to get 5 receivers out, and we're going to see if you're going to play man or zone. Well, we're showing man coverage here. We're in dime. There's 1 linebacker, 4 defensive linemen, and 6 defensive backs. Now, as you see this on the lineman, you got Halsey lined up over the receiver to the right of the quarterback, the inside receiver. That's the slot guy in trips over there. He's going to move back into the box. But I think the play is already called. I think the play has already been called for 5 people to block 5, with Frost being the middle linebacker. But as the play develops, we're going to move Hosey into the box, means that we've got more in there than they've got to block with.
Right.
But what Dak does, and I'm giving this boy all kinds of credit, is he takes Frost and moves him out of position with his initial movements after the snap. And Frost is unblocked into play and yet has gotten moved out of position by the finesse of, quite honestly, this great quarterback, because he's a great quarterback.
Let's watch this thing unfold, and you see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you see Halsey, he's already in front of the center, and that's Chris Frost backing up there. And
right by him.
yeah, Frost is the unblocked player. They had 5 offensive linemen. We have 6 guys in the box. So right off the bat, you know that, hey, if it's a running play, they don't have enough people to block us. Somebody's going to have to make a mistake or force us in a mistake for this play to be successful.
But the finesse of the quarterback
That's
had
exactly what
everything to
happened.
do with it.
You're exactly right.
Go back, talk about this formation a little bit, and you nailed it, Jack, in terms of getting. You have 5 DBs on 5 receivers. You have 2 guys in the middle.
You have 6 defensive backs.
Right.
One of them is
Right.
not a true linebacker.
Right.
One of them is a free safety.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to really be a gap control player. And that's how you get in trouble here.
So you can tell that they're man-to-man across the board on those 5 receivers, which means that Halsey right now, he's got the quarterback. I mean, I think Ellis Johnson has said, we're not going to worry with you playing over the top. We're not going to worry with you taking away defenders. We're more concerned with Dak Prescott's feet. And you just go with Dak Prescott. And what you see happen if you go ahead and play this is that he's going to undercut this, I think the center comes out and blocks him. He undercuts it, Frost overruns it, and you're left with a big gap right in the
both
center
the inside defensive tackles are running outside shoulder as a guard, which means there's 2 gaps in there.
You'll see this.
Let's roll it. There's 2 gaps in there, and there's nobody that can press those inside 8 gaps. It's like a tailback cutting back into the.
And we don't put a lot of blame on Holtzy.
No.
He made a bad step, but Chris Frost is a guy who's unblocked, over pursues, and then Dak goes right by him. Really, Auburn had. I think both teams might have had the look they wanted, but Auburn had essentially an unblocked guy. You had
We
5
were
on
totally
4.
expecting pass.
Right. Yeah.
But you
They had a shot.
hear the term, we didn't execute on a given play,
Right.
and you're unsuccessful. That's a play
it.
right there. Where
That's
we don't
it.
execute.
Yeah, there's no question. That was a huge play. Another one is the one that we were all talking about. Sammy Coates' pass interference, first possession of the third quarter. Let's roll that play. Huge play. As Sammy catches a 68-yard pass down to the Mississippi State 2-yard line and gets hit with an offensive pass interference. Pretty clear. I think it's hand fighting from both guys. You know, I read a tweet. Mike Pereira from the Fox NFL runs the NFL officiating. He said it's a play that should have just been let go.
Absolutely. If you don't have a palm up against a player's body, and as you see this thing run back, Sammy never put his palm up against this player.
Simultaneous hand fighting is what you say.
That's it. I mean, he moved his arm off of his body.
Right. He simply knocked the defender's hand off of him, and if you're not entitled to that, then they need to look at their rule book.
Yeah, that was a brutal play. Auburn ends up punting. They come back and score a touchdown the next possession to cut it to 28-20, but that's a touchdown. They're at the 2-yard line. I mean, massive play. I think the third play is the Jonathan Jones pass interference. The Jonathan Jones gets hit with the 4th and 8, Mississippi State. Late in the game, 13 minutes left in the football game. Auburn has a chance for a 4th down stop. They had already forced 3 straight punts from Mississippi State, so this would have been a 4th consecutive stop from Auburn's defense. And once again, it looks like a lot of fighting both ways, and it goes against Auburn.
I think this was the most critical call in the game as far as penalties go, because you look at the time right there. You're down 1 score. You got the entire 4th quarter to play, and you just made a 4th down stop.
Right.
Now, this play is identical, basically, into what we saw on the last one with Sammy Coates. You got a big physical receiver that's hand checking down the field with another corner.
Early touching, but nothing crazy.
And all he does is try to get his hands off of
Right.
him. I mean, he looks back for the ball. He makes a play on the football. He's already made 2 interceptions in this game.
An early touch, but that's picky. That's less than that's in line with what Sammy was doing.
Right.
I mean, it was real soft, and really he had good position. It looked like De'Runia Wilson was climbing over his back. What can you do?
I think what you get in a situation like that is the referee sort of, if that were a Patrick Peterson from LSU, he never gets that call. But you don't know Jonathan Jones yet. And because of that, he hasn't earned the respect of the referee to leave that flag in the pocket.
Huge call in the game.
Absolutely.
Auburn did end up holding them to a field goal there, but it's still more time went off the clock, and it tacked on 3 more points. It was a big play. Auburn had come off a touchdown and had a chance to get the ball right there at the 30.
Absolutely.
And go the other direction.
Huge swing.
Those 3 plays. It was
Absolutely.
a game of a lot of crazy plays. When we come back, we're going to talk about what can Auburn do in the bye week to better themselves, and how will they prepare for South Carolina a week from now. This is Auburn Intel. Welcome back into the show. As we get ready to talk about Auburn's game against South Carolina, they have a bye week first. Obviously, the focus for Auburn is righting the ship. How does Auburn get back on track after a tough loss against Mississippi State? They fall to number 6 in the polls. They fall down in the rankings in the SEC West behind Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But Auburn is still in contention for all the championships they want to win this year. Guys, when you talk about what do you do in the off week, it's a perfect time.
Well,
it's a
you
perfect time, but
self-scout.
what do
You go
do?
back and find out about yourself, how people use what they knew about you against you.
Right.
For example, I thought that they knew when the blitzes were coming, and they knew however they were coming early in the game, and it seemed like they had us when we blitzed. Dak had us. And so there are other elements that you go back and you take the time that you don't have to be game planning on that intense schedule, and you research yourself. You find out what people know about you, and then you find a way to use it against them.
Yeah, you look at the things that you do well, you hone and fine-tune those. You look at the things that you've completely done miserably,
right,
and you axe those from what you're trying to do. And then you look at the things that you know that you're going to have to do successfully to win football games, and you really try to get better there. You know, you look back at Mississippi State and you think immediately about things like red zone conversion, turnovers, things of that nature. Those are the things that you're trying to clean up during an off week. Quite honestly, I hated the off week as a player, and the reason being is because it was anything but an off week. It really reverted back to spring training mode, to be honest with you, because you get back to basics, you get back to fundamentals, you get back to tackling and some scrimmaging. And there was a lot of hitting that goes on. And if you listen to Coach Malzahn and sort of how he's going to approach it, he's already said that. Hey, we're going to have 3 physical practices this week. And in my mind, that was a light bulb went off. We're going to be doing a lot of hitting, and this is going to be a tough week. And I never look forward to that.
You've always got to make sure as a coach that a loss creates a little pain. And there's emotional pain, and then there's the pain of just having a very intense schedule. And if you're going to coach this group of guys this year and next year, you start building that association. We lose, we got to go back to fundamentals. You've got to build a mindset for what losing brings about, what you got to do to get it right. There's nothing that fixes things more than just what the Auburn Creed says, hard work.
When you look at the Mississippi State game, I think that those are the things that stood out to me were red zone opportunities. Auburn entered as one of the best in the country in scoring in the red zone. They were still 4 of 6, but only 2 touchdowns and 6 opportunities while giving up 4 touchdowns in Mississippi State, 6 opportunities. And the third down conversions. Auburn was one of the best in the country at third down conversions. They finished this game under 50%. They had been well over 50% for the season. And on the reverse side, they had only been given up, they only given up 2 third down conversions against LSU and Arkansas combined. They gave up 7 of 9 in the first half alone in Mississippi State. Do we feel like, is there an issue in the red zone and third down? Is it a quick fix, or did Mississippi State expose something when you look at those two important
Well, number
factors?
one, you got Dak Prescott.
Right.
And I think third down's a quarterback down.
Oh,
And
bunch of
we were playing almost to Cam Newton, really. I mean, he personally took third down and made it his down, and we're not going to play him again. So don't try to fix something that don't need to be fixed, but you better be able to discern what's about what you can do something about and what's about something that you're leaving behind you in Starkville.
I think one of the things that really has to improve is what we do on first down. I think that we got beat on first down, both defensively and offensively.
which was something Mississippi State was really good at coming in. I mean, that's
And so Mississippi State had the advantage of second and third and short. Auburn had the disadvantage of second. And we talked a lot about it. Are they wasting downs sometimes? They get into this hurry up and they run the same play right up the gut. Coach Crow is not going to get into it about trying to second guess Coach Mountling, but
That's self-scouting, though.
Yeah, but
sometimes you need
wonder.
all.
you get caught up in, wow.
He's
I
trying to
just threw
catch
it
him in
6
base.
times.
He's got a thought process to go back and analyze what he did.
Yeah,
And
but
he's good at
not
that.
not being able to lean running game when you get down in that red zone, when you get inside the 10-yard line, when you get there 4 times in this football game and you can't punch one in the end zone just by rolling your sleeves up and pushing people out of the way. That's what they've got to fix.
Yeah, that was a big problem, running the ball between the tackles. That was an issue for this team. There's no question. What are the bright spots through 6 games? You look back at this team. They're 5-1. They're 6th in the country. A lot more positives than negatives, despite the 1 game. What are they doing well through 6 games?
I can't wait to see Rock Thomas come back on that field.
Right.
We're sitting here in Oxford, Alabama. Okay. I can't wait for Rock Thomas to show what he showed us and that little bit of exposure he got, because I think there's going to be a balance. We're not talking about competing for a job. We're just talking about creating a mixture. And I think he's going to really add a lot to this football team.
I think 2 things. I think the balance that we've been able to establish offensively. We talk a lot about not being able to run the football and it doesn't look the same, but we still almost ran for 250 yards against a stout Mississippi State defense.
Very good front seven.
So the balance that we have running and throwing the ball with guys like Duke Williams, who's been a godsend of this football team. Second thing, the quality depth that we've built in the secondary. We play a ton of guys back there, and those guys have really stepped up. Some guys playing in roles that they're not used to. Jonathan Ford, particularly at the safety spot, has come on and has really surprised me in
Leads
a
the
big
team
way.
in tackles, Rudy Ford.
Yeah,
and solo tackles.
And we're not
Led
talking
the
about a
team in
kid.
Starkville.
We're not talking about a kid
that's
that's running and
outstanding.
diving at feet. We're talking about a kid that's running up there with nice form tackling. They've got true freshmen playing back there. They've got some quality seniors that are stepping up. We saw Jonathan Jones this week with 2 interceptions. So the secondary has grown leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the secondary is a big positive.
Linebackers
I
a
think
big
across
positive.
the board
Yeah.
defensively. We
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah.
They're better across the board defensively.
Except the edges. I mean, we need Carl Lawson
Yeah,
back,
yes,
or we need
defensive
somebody
ends. Yeah,
during this
absolutely.
spring training, as Rob said, to really come on and give us some edge pressure, so we don't have to blitz to get to a quarterback.
I think where they need to get better is the middle of the line. I mean, this line was a strength last year, and they're not getting a lot of push, and those guard in the center,
Right.
right between the tackles. They're not really just shoving people out of the way. I think that's the big thing that they can improve on moving forward as Auburn tries to right the ship and get back on the track. A great off week in South Carolina coming up in 2 weeks. When we get back, parting shots on Auburn Intel. Welcome back into Auburn Intel as we close the show out, guys. As always, with a segment we like to call Closing Time, just kind of some parting shots to send everybody on their way about what we just saw. Rob, you can kick it off.
You know, things are never quite as good as they seem and never quite as bad as they seem, and I think we can take that from this Mississippi State game. I still feel like this is a championship quality football team for one reason, because there's a lot of leaders on this football team. Guys like Nick Marshall, guys like Reese Dismukes, guys all across that defensive front. These are guys that have been in a lot of battles. They've played a lot of football for Auburn. They've played in a lot of big-time games. They've overcome a lot of adverse situations. They've been exactly where they're at. They've gone on the road and lost to LSU and came back and won them all after that to get to where their ultimate goal was. All their goals are still right in front of them, and they can attain them. They've got an outstanding coaching staff that's there and is going to put them in position to make plays. They just have to learn not to defeat themselves early in football games. And I think that these seniors and the leaders on this football team will pull these guys in the right direction during this off week.
What you think?
I think every football team develops a personality. Championship football teams develop a swagger. And we started our swagger last year about this time of year. I think there's something that comes with being challenged, and this challenges, and then how do you respond? And you don't respond back to where you were, you respond back to a higher level. And you can tell when a team is taking that on by the word we use a lot of times, the teams that have a swagger, they develop that swagger. And that swagger comes from meeting adversity and accepting the challenge, and just everybody getting a little bit of a juice about them and getting that swagger. We'll get that swagger against South Carolina. We'll come back and be a better football team for having gone through this.
Yeah, I think for me, the important thing to remember about where Auburn is they're still 6th in the country. They still have 1 loss. It's a college football playoff, so you only got to be in the top 4. They can still do everything they wanted to do. They did it last year. It looks bleak at the moment you lose a game, but here's the great thing about Auburn's schedule. As tough as it is, you look at it and say, gosh, Auburn still has to go to 3 top 10 teams, and South Carolina and Texas A&M at home. But guess what that means? It means you have more opportunities than anybody else in the country.
Right.
To fulfill what they could still be number 1 in the country if they won out with that schedule.
Yeah.
You could look at that and say they did more than anybody. So I think you got to look at this schedule and say it's tough. But if you're Gus Malzahn, you go to the team and you say nobody has more opportunities than us. Look at it that way. Be blessed that you have more opportunities. You could have 1 tough game left and people could look at you differently. You have a ton of chances to go prove that you're the best team in the country. So I think that's what Auburn kind of has to do moving forward is look at it that way and move forward. It starts with South Carolina, a home game, bye-week home game, perfect situation to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's going to be fun to watch as Auburn tries to get this thing rolling again. South Carolina comes to Jordan-Hare Stadium here in 2 weeks. Guys, great show, Auburn Intel. You can catch Auburn Intel at auburnundercover.com. You can catch the Game Day Bunker. You guys are off this week. Where will you be for South Carolina? Do we know yet?
Rogue is
Rogue Tavern,
yeah.
Rogue Tavern with the Greater Birmingham Auburn Club, and fantastic venue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we had the cheers going this past weekend, and if you can't make it to a game, Rogue Tavern on 2nd Avenue North.
2nd Avenue North. There's some
23rd
great
Street.
combination of young and older kids. Come alone.
Yeah,
You know,
Game
just
Day
come.
Bunker.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, GameDayBunker.com. We carry it at auburnundercover.com as well. Both those places you can watch old archived Game Day Bunker shows, which is always fun to go back and find a specific moment in the game that was a lot of fun and watch y'all's reaction. That's a great thing to do. I do that a lot. So make sure and go check them out at GameDayBunker.com. Check out the show at auburnundercover.com. And we're excited about what Auburn Intel is going to be. It's just going to take off from here. We're glad everybody tuned in and joined us. And we'll be back next week for Jack Crow, for Rob Pate. I am Justin Hokanson. Until next time.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.